I've been to Bangalore for last 4 days, so I totally understand. Like, it must have taken a big effort on your part, dealing with traffic, taking a day, and coming to this conference. I'm super honored to be here, and I'm very passionate about the developer scenarios, like he called out, and very passionate about open source, because essentially this is how we democratize the entire software industry. Because then we open the tools to each and every one so that they can embrace this and make careers, make innovations on top of it, and take the industry forward. I think for me, this is the best part, is like how we cater towards innovation, how we give you enough tools so that you're always thinking ahead and not reinventing the wheel again and again. I won't go too deep into it. He already gave a good intro for me. I currently work at Salesforce, where I lead their web platform. So Salesforce is an enterprise company. It does CRM. And we also do our own platform, and at the same time we are also an ISV where we create solutions on top of it. Salesforce has a mantra of like no software, so essentially everything is delivered through the browser, through the web platform. I spent around like more than a decade, like 12 years at Microsoft, and at Microsoft I used to lead their entire web standard strategy. I played my part in moving Microsoft from the .NET on-prem software to a fully fledged cloud solution, which Microsoft Charu talked about. I was super psyched that Microsoft did that change, because that's the way to go. I have this random number here. I just added it just so that we fuel creativity and we all start thinking. And if anyone needs more coffee, maybe that will kick in, right? Can anyone guess what that number could be? And if anyone is thinking about it, I'm not bragging, that's not my salary. It's wishful thinking, but it's not my salary. It's the amount of seconds I have spent in my lifetime thinking about the web, working on the web, and moving the web forward. Like, this amounts to 15 plus years. I still remember in 1999, I wrote my first website. And that was a pretty phenomenal moment for me at that time. Like, I could just fire up Notepad. I was not even using IDE that time. And in Notepad, I could write HTML, CSS, and in the browser, I could see pixels being drawn. Like, that was such a phenomenal, awesome moment for me. And from that time onwards, like, I was so engrossed, so in love with web, that like all my career I've just spent in moving the web forward. So today I have a super bold topic, right? Elevating the web platform to scale for the enterprise. Like, if there are any core native developers here, Android, iOS, .NET, they would be like, I don't buy it, right? I don't buy that web platform could be something which could be elevated to all form factors, all the different scenarios which we as developers go through today. So that's going to be my 45 minutes talk today, and telling you like how we at Salesforce embrace the web platform, how we solve enterprise solutions at scale, and how we are contributing it back to the community so that we empower you all and billions others so that they can use the same stack which we use and be part of that community in moving the web forward. So the way I've structured the talk is like I'm going to divide it into 3 chapters. First, I'm going to focus on the web platform, and the way it's going to be is like I'm going to start with a small story. It's not once upon a time going back to 1999, but essentially I'm just going to rewind it to like last 5 years and talk about what has happened in the last 5 years for me to come on the stage and make that bold claim. And for that, let's look at the web stack of 2014. And I'm not even looking at i6 or other legacy browsers at that time. I'm just calling out what modern browsers were providing at that time. Chrome, Firefox, if you want to count i11, go ahead, count it. And essentially you see that It was a very, very rudimentary platform in 2014. Essentially, the web platform didn't give you anything compared to the Android or the .NET stack, which was pretty mature at that time, even iOS. And what happened during that time was like people were still building websites, they were still enjoying web. So to solve the gaps or to fill the gaps which the web platform created, lot of frameworks came into the picture. And the awesome thing that happened during that time is the frameworks were actually innovating. But the side part, the double-edged sword part of that entire thing is they were innovating the same thing in their own silos. So they were solving the same problems again and again, again and again in their own silos. So you would see like the frameworks would come in and come up with a component model. They would come up with modules. They would come up with performance optimizations because the web platform was not giving them that abilities. And what that created is a fragmentation problem. Like I was a developer when I started at Microsoft, and fragmentation like gives me nightmares. And especially with the browser stack and now with Android and iOS, as a developer, you have to think through so many permutations and combinations that like you're more stuck in the past than thinking about the future. And I hate it. So these are the different things I want to call out, right? Like the things you write with the frameworks, because they are proprietary in nature, they are not interoperable. Skills are also not transferable. Like if you know a certain framework, let's say jQuery at that time, you can't move from jQuery to Angular 1.0 because you are a jQuery developer. You are not a web developer. You are a jQuery language expert at that time. And that creates another problem for enterprises where hiring is super hard because like I have this joke where like what's the flavor of this season? Which framework is the flavor of the season? Because for last 4 years, I have seen at least I did this count, like in last 4 years we had at least 900 frameworks came by, and frameworks come in every week and they die the next day itself. And what we remember is like the big companies and the big frameworks, they stick. So lot of awesome things happened because of these fragmentation problem, because everyone was trying to solve it, right? Like Facebook was coming in, betting a lot on the web. Salesforce was betting a lot on the web. Microsoft started betting a lot on the web. And essentially what they did was they took all these innovations, which were essentially silo innovations in their own world, and then they contribute it back to the standards. And they said like, okay, W3C, Chrome, Edge, all the other browsers, let's work together. We have something really, really awesome here, which can be a true competitor to Android, iOS, and other platforms. Let's all work together and add it into the web platform. And this is the inflection point which I see is like after 2014, when everyone understood like, hey, we are creating beast in our own world, rather than creating those, let's come up with a more awesome way of doing it. And at that time, you would see like lot of these same concepts started coming into the browser platform. Now we have web components, we have promises, ECMAScript 6, 7, 8, 9, like so much innovation has happened in the last 5 years. And what that does is it gives us the stack of 2019. Now you can see like the orange is much beefier, and what you see in the green is essentially sugar. Like whatever sugar that framework wants to add on top of this underlying platform is what the green stands out now. And this is pretty awesome innovation because essentially you're using everything natively which the platform is providing you. You are not having heavy beast JavaScript frameworks. And that helps a lot, right? There are a lot of benefits with using natively, but the biggest thing which I personally care about a lot is performance. Like day in, day out, I'm trying to like squeeze out 50 milliseconds, 80 milliseconds, so that like and the end result for my users is much better. And having everything natively into the web platform is super awesome because now it's performant. Because essentially what happens is like how browsers are designed is you make a network call, your packets are downloaded, then first the JavaScript engine will start parsing everything. Once they parse everything, they'll compile it, they'll JIT it. Once that JITting is happened, then they will give it to the DOM parser. The DOM parser will create a DOM tree, and that tree will be given to the CSS engine. That CSS engine will create those boxes, your CSS boxes, and then finally it will be painted on the screen. This entire cycle in all the browser is a synchronous step. It's serial. So essentially, if you have a very, very fat JavaScript layer, you're wasting time because it's going to take that much time to parse, compile JIT, DOM, CSS, and paint. So having everything natively into the browser stack is super awesome because then your JavaScript abstraction is super thin and it's essentially a sugar. So I was pretty psyched, like all these innovations are happening and all the things are going into the browsers. Like I called out very few innovations at the same time. Service workers was coming up really, really big. And then we had lot of innovations in PWAs. And this is where I feel the inflection point happened for developers who thought like, okay, I don't need multiple code bases to solve the same problem. I don't need to have the same single page application in Android, in iOS, in web, in .NET. Like rather than writing the same code 4 times and learning 4 different texts, maybe I can just write it in web and use the power of PWA and then just surface it to different form factors I care about. Because like this makes me innovate further rather than just rewriting the same thing again and again. And PWS is super awesome, right? Because you can still use the web and at the same time, you can still use native APIs. So if on the phone, if you care about accelerometer or a GPS location, through the web JavaScript interface, you can call those native APIs and those native APIs will directly transfer to what iOS surfaces or Android surfaces or .NET surfaces. That makes this web stack super interesting and super compelling, right? Because as a web developer, now you have all the form factors, different OSs, and even the future form factors, which could be AR, VR, MR, at your disposal. Because you're writing your code once and then think about these as your delivery mechanisms. And this is where I feel like the web platform was something which was embraced by our industry. Like one of the examples which I'll call out is Twitter. Like I'm pretty sure every one of you must have a Twitter app and you use Twitter app day in day out. It's a PWA on your Android, on your iOS, on the web. It's exactly same stack. And they are just using PWAs to deliver it to different form factors. And this makes the development process for Twitter super awesome because it's one code base. They don't have to do the same bug fix in 3 different code base. They don't have to hire 3 different set of developers with 3 different varied skills. They just have to hire a standards compliant web developer, and that web developer can start coding and essentially have the same experience delivered everywhere. So that's web platform, right? My second chapter is about scale. And it's not about the AWS scale or the other scale which Charu was talking about. It's about scale for you, right? As a developer, how do you need to scale yourself so that you think about all the scenarios which you need to cater to when you think about enterprise, right? Like enterprise is a beast of its own. Like developing for Facebook and developing for enterprise could be different little bit. So I want to go through that journey. It's like, what does it mean to develop for enterprise for a developer? And here I'll talk about like expectations. Like the expectations of the user have drastically changed in the last 10 years. Now, whatever they see on their phone or their consumer websites, they expect the same thing when they go to office. They expect the exact same behavior, the buttery smooth experiences, having a mobile friendly experience for even the enterprise apps. So if they like Facebook in their personal world, and if they are using a travel management tool in the enterprise, they expect exactly same standards. But essentially creating that for enterprise is not easy, because you have different baggages. Like I can think about one which is a big baggage for us, I-11, right? So at the same time you want to innovate, but you have this baggage, right? So you can't run as fast as you can, because this baggage is essentially slowing you down day in day out. Like someone asked a security question, right? It's a big headache, right? Like as a developer, like you may write the most awesome code, but there could be a hacker out there who is trying day in day out to break that code and hack or create security exploits. And that's where I joke, like when the boat reaches the security challenges the rocks, essentially like it trips down, and essentially no one knows what's happening unless someone has a crystal ball and they can predict. So in an eye chart, like if you think about all the big things you need to worry about, it's security, performance, the big beast I called out, I-11, which is never going to die, I guess. I really want I-11 to die, even though I worked on it. And these are the big challenges which I feel any developer will face when they are thinking about enterprise and consumer too. But like some of the things are pretty true to enterprise. And what you want to do is like you want to solve this for your user, right? I've never seen a developer who would come and say, I don't care about it. Like I'll never solve it for my user. I don't want to create awesome experiences for my user. I've never seen a developer. Everyone is passionate about creating these awesome experiences for their end users. That's the pride we all take in, right? Like creating awesome experiences, creating innovations so that the end user is super delighted. And at the same time you want your life to be awesome too, right? You don't want to like work 16 hours 20 hours a day, keep writing accordions again and again. Like if you just do accordion search in Google, it amazes me like how many results will show up. And like why is everyone writing accordion? Like we don't need to write accordion one more time. It's a solved problem, right? It's like reinventing the wheel again and again and again. And I want you all to get out of that zone. Don't reinvent it. If there is a off the shelf solution, grab it, right? That's the whole idea of embracing open source, right? There is a off the shelf solution. Someone super smart in the past have created that solution. You take it, build on top of it, and move forward. Because you want to be in this state. You want to be in a state where you're productive, where you're happy, when you're thinking about the innovation, and when you're not worried about like XYZ bugs or like 4 different code bases, backwards compatibility all the way to Android 4.0 to whatever Android version we have today, right? And the key thing is these are not unique problems, right? We at Salesforce faced it. Like Salesforce has been predominantly completely web focused because we don't believe in on-prem software, and we have faced these problems multiple times, and we made mistakes. We made lot of mistakes. I showed you the 2014 stack. Like we were one of the framework which was doing that innovation in our own silo. Like we came up with a framework we called Aura. Like that framework was an abstraction layer on top of what the 2014 web stack was. And the biggest problem which I called out is because it was a proprietary framework, essentially it created a walled garden for anyone who wants to come and use Salesforce as a developer. Because now you need to learn a proprietary technology. Like you as a standards based developer cannot come to Salesforce and say, okay, I'll start developing day zero. Like you have to learn each and every proprietary thing. We did it in the past, and that made life super hard. It made life hard for us because hiring developers was hard. It made life hard for our partners, our ISVs and SIs, because now they had hard time hiring developers. So the third chapter I have is essentially in the last 5 years, how did we take these learnings? How did we course corrected ourselves, and what changes we embraced at Salesforce? And the key part of this third chapter is how we are making sure that all these challenges, all these learnings which we had, we are sharing it with everyone. Because we want the community to grow with us. We don't like the community to solve the same problems, right? If I've already stumbled upon a rock, I should just tell you there is a rock or there is a pothole so that you don't stumble on the same thing again and again. So for that, I'll start with this UI stack. Like this is our UI stack. Everything is standards compliant, right? We have a framework which is web component based. We have a design system which is cutting edge design system which anyone can use today and build super awesome applications. We have developer tools like Charu was talking about VS Code being the #1 tool. And to embrace that, like I said, if someone has solved a problem, you should embrace that. And we embraced VS Code. Like VS Code, we have a great partnership with Microsoft where we build extensions on top of VS Code so that we could have VS Code as our recommended choice of IDE. And that's just one example. Like client-side security, like if you think about Salesforce, it's a very component-based model. And normally what a web developer does or any developer does is like if they want to isolate the DOM, they would slap it in an iframe, which is super bad if you ask me. I've worked on the browser and I know like the cost it takes to render an iframe on the screen. And if you are having multiple iframes on the screen, you're essentially like exponentially degrading your performance. So at Salesforce, we came up with the innovative encapsulation at JavaScript layer, which gives you the exact same encapsulation which an iframe would give you, but it's the same DOM tree. So you don't pay the performance cost. It just gives you the security encapsulation you need so that you as a developer feel that, okay, I have a shield. I have a shield which will make sure that I am secure, my code is secure, my user is secure. And on top of that, we have lot of low code tools too. Like I said, like no one needs to write accordion one more time. At the same time, we don't want anyone to write forms again. Like forms have been written like a gazillion times. But we understand sometimes the use case could change. So we have created certain low code tools where like you with just your mouse click, you can build those components and you don't need to write code. Because essentially the code is written the right aspects so that you build your customized form. Same with flows. Yeah, we have an entire process building engine with which you can create an entire process with just clicks and not with code. I'll talk a brief about each and everything here. So the framework I talked, it's open source. You can use it today. It's completely based on web components. So essentially, like you're spitting out web components, you can use that web components with any other stack you care about. So for example, like if you are already using React, but you want to embrace lwc.dev, the framework we have written, you use the vanilla web components which are spit out from LWC and start embracing it. One of the very awesome thing about our framework is we directly use the bare metal, the direct JavaScript APIs, direct HTML APIs, which the platform provides us. So you are not learning the language of LWC. You're directly using web standards. So like when the new flavor comes, you are not affected because essentially you are calling native JavaScript, native HTML APIs and nothing proprietary here. So that's a really awesome thing which I feel about this standard is as the web grows, as Chrome, Firefox, Edge figure out how to make that entire experience super performant, you get all the benefits for free. You don't have to do anything else because essentially they are tuning the APIs for you. They are tuning your code so that your users get a faster experience. How cool is that, right? Like the top browser companies are working to make sure that your end-to-end experience is performant and buttery smooth. We have a design system which many people in the industry call it as the gold standard of enterprise design system. It's again open source. We even have a version for React. So if you are using React and you need a design system, you can use the awesome guidelines we have for React too. It makes it super easy for a developer where now you don't have to worry about accessibility. You don't have to worry about each and everything when you're thinking about UI, because everything is natively built into the design system. Like end of the day, like the goal we have is like how much productive we can make you so that you are just focused on solving the hard problems. Like day in, day out, I talk to my developers and I tell them like, hey, you have a superpower. You're a developer. And use that superpower as a very awesome currency. Only spend it when you have to spend it. Like if you are just throwing away your currency to our example of building accordion, you're just essentially wasting your currency, right? So as a developer, use your superpower when it's absolutely necessary. We have like the JavaScript encapsulation, we call it Lightning Locker. This is not open source yet, but like I'm actively working on the open source path, because we have a lot of blockchain companies who come to us and say, hey, like blockchain doesn't have a web security solution, and we want to have blockchain delivered through web. And we want to partner with you because this is something super cool. You don't need an iframe. In the past, I don't know how many people know, but Google came up with a similar thing. They used to call it Google Kaha. Has anyone heard about Kaha? So Google Kaha was essentially a same concept. Essentially, they started it when they were building Gmail, and at that time, they were thinking about adding widgets to Gmail. Like they started first with chat, but it was an inbuilt chat, but they were thinking about third party too. So like Google is also partnering with us, where we are working closely and making sure that we take this tech to a next level and open source it so that everyone who wants to have JavaScript security layer can use it, and ultimately iframe also dies. I'll really celebrate that day. And I can't go through each and everything because I'll run out of time, but like we have like a gazillion services which are open source, which gives you AI ML, which gives you data caching layer, which gives you all the awesome things which are needed for you to take your idea to production. Like this is the phrase we use a lot inside of Salesforce is, how can I take my idea to production? Like I have an idea, it's super awesome ideas. What tools I have so that I can build an idea? How can I take it to production? How can my users start using it so that I get feedback, and then I reiterate the loop so that I'm actively working on making that entire experience super awesome. And we at Salesforce love open source. Like whenever we are thinking about a new product, a new technology, one of the big pillars we have internally is open source. And we always think about designing software with that criteria in mind, so that we are not using any private APIs, or we are not embracing any proprietary things which may hinder us from taking that technology open source. And here you would see a sneak peek of like in just last 4 months, what all open source techs we have contributed to or we are part of, right? The big things which I already called out is LWC, the design system, but Oak Cliff is super big, right? Like lot of CLI engines are built on Oak Cliff. And we play a very, very big part in moving Oak Cliff to the next level so that the entire DevOps experience is super awesome for everyone, and there is a standard around it. So I'm very proud about Salesforce embracing this and in fact contributing back so that it becomes an open system. And the reason this is super important for us is, end of the day, we want the community and the end users, the developers, everyone super happy. Because if you all are productive, if you all are thinking about creative things, you are going to take the tech stack to the next level. You are going to come up with innovations which are going to define our future, which are going to essentially map where the human mankind is going to go in the next 10 years. Right? Today we are thinking about going to Mars, and lot of the things come from this growth mindset where we are thinking about the future and we are also being agnostic about the past, right? Like It's not that you should not learn from the past, but you should not live in the past, right? If there is a baggage, figure out how to leave the baggage behind and move forward. And the reason this is big for Salesforce is because of these core values, right? These are the core values which we fundamentally believe in, like day in, day out. Our CEO is talking about it, is investing in it, because like we really, really care about equal rights, equal pay, equal opportunity. Essentially, if you see that word equal, we want to have everything we do at Salesforce available to everyone. It's not about Salesforce. It's not about the Salesforce community. It's about the web community. It's about each and every developer who wants to embrace web, who wants to embrace standards compliant technologies and use that to make a career. And we do understand, like, okay, if you're coming from a different background, like a Java background, like you may need support in learning these technologies and moving forward here. And for that, we have a super awesome learning tool which we call Trailhead. It's free for all. Anyone, right from like a student to anyone on earth, can go to this free learning website and start learning anything you want to learn, right from resume building to blockchain to serverless to UI development. Think about anything you want to learn and it will be available on Trailhead. And the most cool aspect about Trailhead is that you even get college credits. So you are learning, it's a gamified system, you are having fun, and then you are getting college credits from an accredited US university. And then after doing multiple credits, you even get a degree. Like, I can't think about a cool learning ecosystem other than Trailhead. Completely free, open for all. And like you saw like how Salesforce learned from their mistakes, like the principles which we had, we applied it to our products because we were embracing and moving towards a more open culture so that it's equal. We are creating opportunities where you can go and learn and have fun. But at the same time, we are also creating an economy where you can go and thrive and you can create a career for yourself. Like this is an independent study done in 2018 by an independent company. Essentially, what they're saying is that in 3 years, the entire Salesforce economy is going to be around $900 billion. This is a ridiculously big number. Like having 10 million developers, which we call trailblazers, into the ecosystem, creating 3.3 million jobs in the next 3 years. And these jobs are open to all, right? Because you can be sitting in your garage and have a weekend thing where you're learning about through Trailhead and creating applications and releasing it on App Exchange, which is our portal. And now suddenly, other than iOS app portal and Android app portal, you have another opportunity where you can like talk to an enterprise customer and release your products to them. And this is going to be like super awesome, where like it's just not about Salesforce, but it's about the entire community, which we call the Ohana, which is a Hawaiian word for family, where we believe in our family, we want to embrace that family culture and move everyone forward. And to take it seriously, we created this special campaign for this conference. Essentially, in 1 hour, you can go and learn LWC today. Like we have a workshop today, which is gonna run for 2 hours. Take some time out there, go to the workshop, and start learning LWC. And end of 1 hour, you're not going to build a hello world component. I bet you are going to build a hello world component in the first 5 minutes. But after the first 1 hour, when you are done with this module, you will be building a medium sized complex component. And you will have a lot of fun building it because it's going to gamify the system. You're going to learn a new skill, which is not going to be a proprietary skill because you're learning web standards. So you can take that web standards anywhere. And like I am super confident that each and every one of you can do this in less than 1 hour. If someone takes more than an hour, like I had my Twitter handle there, Ankush on T, just tweet me. And then I'll take my statement back, because I truly believe like we are not doing anything proprietary. We are making it super simple for everyone so that they can embrace and be part of the ecosystem, be part of the change to move web to the next level. With that, I want to say thank you again. I want to echo that it's an honor to be here. It's a great pleasure to come here and talk to you all. I am super psyched about the opportunity we all have. Especially India has a super vibrant community, like which is very, very special, and I see so much awesomeness coming out. So again, thanks a lot. It was awesome interacting with you all.